Hi everyone, I'm Ives from the Peer Tutor Society. Today we're going to be talking about the conditionals and nested conditionals in C. Let's start first with an introduction. Conditional statements are used to execute different blocks of code based on certain conditions. These are usually arbitrarily decided by the developer. So the most common form of conditional statement is the if-else statement. So the general form of an if else statement looks like this. So if close parentheses condition, and then you put here the code block that you will execute should the condition be true. And then after that, we're gonna put an else condition here, or else statement rather. And then under another code block that will be executed should the condition be false. Seems easy, right? To implement this, let's start first with a simple example. Let's say I want to uh, check if a number is positive. Let's do the preliminaries first. So include stdio.h and main. We're not gonna use predefined functions yet. There we go. So let's declare an integer. Int. Uh, there we go. Num equal 10. And then let's do our conditional. So let's do our condition here. So to check if a number is positive, then it must be greater than 0. So we want to check this number. So number must be greater than 0. That is our condition. After that, we're just gonna put here a user message that says our number is positive. So %d number is positive, or it's a positive number. Simple and easy, right? And then if our condition is false, we're just gonna put another error message, or a user message rather. Is a negative number. Since we're sure that if it isn't positive, then it must be a negative number. Or can also be 0, but regardless, that is our error message. Oh, also, a quick tip is if we don't have more than, for example, if we don't have more than one code block here, then we don't need to have curly braces for the conditional. It's the same here. So let's check if this runs. 11. And there you go. Oh, 2 is a positive number. What? Num is equal to 10. I'm not sure why it came out to 2. Oh, because it's an error. Yeah. I haven't put here num. Yeah, there we go. Everyone makes mistakes. Okay, there we go. So maybe 2 is the default address or memory address for %d, but anyway, here we can see 10 is a positive number, which demonstrates the ability of conditionals to execute code blocks. Okay? And then if I were to put negative 10 rather, then it should output %d is a negative number. Okay? So it's easy. Very easy. Now let's take it up a notch. What if I want to have two more, or rather a nested conditional? So I want a conditional inside the conditional. But first, let's have a scenario where we actually require two, or a nested conditional. So how would that look like? So let's check if a number is divisible by 3, 5, or both. Okay, so how do we do that? So let's first find the number that is divisible by 3 and 5. Easiest. Now let's just modify our condition first. So it must be first divisible by 3, and then let's delete this. It should be divisible by 5. So we're first checking if this is, if our number is divisible by 3, and then we're gonna check if it's divisible by 5. So let's think of this as gates. So after my first gate, my first condition, I'm gonna check if it's correct for my second condition. 5, and then if this is true, then it is divisible by 3. And then if this is true, then it is divisible by 5. So it is both divisible by 3 and 5. So our message should be printf %d is divisible by 3 and 5. Is that correct? So num. And then what if this condition is true, but this condition isn't true? I'm gonna put an else for this code block. So I'm gonna put here else printf, since this is true, our condition is true, but this is false, then it must be, our number must be divisible by 3 but not divisible by 5. So our message here should be %d is divisible by 3 only, right? So like I was saying, it's like gates. So if this is true, I'm gonna check if this is true. And if both of them are true, this is what will execute. But if only this is true, then it will not go through this gate, this condition. It will go straight through to else here. Okay? Since this condition will execute this entire code block. Right? Easy. Now, what if my number isn't divisible by 3? Then I must have another else statement. So it's just another else statement for this outer conditional. So if my number isn't divisible by 3, then automatically it won't go through this gate. So my number isn't divisible. Oh, never mind. Forgot another step. So we're gonna add an else if. So if it isn't divisible by 3 in this first gate, and then we want to add another gate or another condition where it will evaluate if our number is divisible by 5. Since if this is false, then it automatically won't check for divisibility by 5. So we need to add another condition. %5. Then it must be divisible by 5. Three and 5 by 5 only. Do you get me? Easy. So if we were to trace this again, if my number is, say, still 15, is my number divisible by 3? Yes. So it will evaluate this code block. Is my number divisible by 5? Yes. Then this will be the final output. Forgot to add 0 here, equals 0. Since divisibility means there will be no remainder. And modulo checks if or outputs the remainder of this condition. Okay. 0. After that, need to add another final else statement. Else printf let's just do this. Isn't divisible by 3 or 5. 3 or 5. So that pretty much covers everything about conditionals in C. Okay, so if we were to trace this again, 15, or let's do 10. So is my number divisible by 3? So 10 modulo 3 isn't 0. So this is false. Then I go to the next else statement. Is 10 modulo 5 equals 0? Yes, because there's no remainder. So the user message will only be %d is divisible by 5 only. So let's test that out. So save. Yeah, so here we go. 10 is divisible by 5 only. Now let's do 15 to check if our tracing was correct. So to recap, 15 modulo 3 equals 0 is true. Then I will evaluate this. 15 modulo 5 is equal to 0. Then the program should output this. Okay? So let's test that out. And we are correct. Let's do 2. I know this is tedious, but we want to check all of the possible cases for our program. So test cases, edge, what do you call that? Anyway, let's test that. Let's trace this first. So 12 modulo 3 is 0. Then I will, is 0, yeah. Should output 0 because 12 is divisible by 3. Then if this is true, then I will evaluate this. Then 12 modulo 5 isn't 0, so this is false. I will go to this else statement and I will only evaluate this. These won't be evaluated anymore. So let's test. Again, we are correct. So next we want to 1. Yeah. So that should output 1 isn't divisible by 3 or 5. 3 or 5. Yeah. So 1 modulo 3 false. We go to the next if. So else if 1 modulo 5 is not 0, then this is already false. We go to the last else statement, which we don't need a condition for. And it should just output this. So let's run it again. 1 isn't divisible by 3 or 5. Easy. And that would be it for if and else statements for C. But as a bonus, we're also gonna tackle ternary operators. So that is an entirely different set of codes. But it's actually, we can think of it as a shorthand for if and else statements for C. So How does ternary operators look like? A ternary operator looks like this. So um, let's put here ternary. So ternary operators actually provide a concise way to express simple conditional logics in a single line. So it evaluates the condition, and if it's true, it returns um, an expression. Otherwise, it returns another expression. So how does that work? So it looks like this: condition, and then we put a question mark, expression one, colon, expression two. Now, how does that work? So if this condition is true, expression 1 will happen. But if this expression is false, expression 2 will happen. So let's do an example. Okay, so let's comment that out first. So let's say we want to determine if a number is even or odd using a ternary operator. So since we're already in int main, let's just declare int number. Number equal 20. Then, sorry. Let's do a string. So char pointer. Pointer. So, yeah, so I just declared a string here. We don't need to worry about that for now. Anyway, so we want to put in here if it's even or odd. So result equals my condition. So number modulo 2 should be equal to 0 if it's even. So question mark, if this is true, then it must be even. So even. This will happen if it's true. But if this condition is false, then expression 2 will happen. Odd. Okay? And then let's just print the results. Print f %d is %string. So let's do, yeah, it's okay. So %d will be num, and then %string will be result, and that should work. Before we run this, let's trace. So 20 num is 20, so result equals 20 modulo 2 equal to 0. This condition is true. Then if this condition is true in a ternary operator, expression 1 will happen. So %d is 20 is even. Again, 20 is even. Let's try that out. There we go. 20 is even. So if I were to put 19, this condition will be false, then expression 2 will happen. So 19 is odd. Let's test. 19 is odd. So regardless if you want to use ternary operators or the traditional if and else conditions, it will yield the same results. But the benefit of ternary operators, if we want to do simple lines of conditions, then it will be easier to handle since, or easier to read rather, since it will only occupy one line. Okay? Good luck with your exams and CCPROG1 journey. Bye!